Gophers draft hopefuls. We're going to touch on all the guys who have entered their names into the draft. Then we're going to talk about likelihood of if they get drafted, where at, or if they're going to be more like a UDFA. Finally, we'll wrap it up with Guess That Gopher. It's going to be a fun one today. Stay tuned.
Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast one of your first listens each and every day. My name is Kane Rob. You can follow me at Twitter at 4Kane Rob Video, the number 4 Kane Rob Video. And we are off to a great start here at the Golden Gophers podcast. I'm having so much fun with y'all. We are getting interaction on Twitter. We can use some more though. So go check us out. Go follow us. Go drop some questions. Go drop some GIFs. I love GIFs. So if you want to have a GIF war, GIF off, head over to Twitter. Be sure to follow on YouTube. Subscribe. You see that red button right there? Subscribe, please. And thank you. Now, as we said yesterday, we have a contest going for a free alternate Gopher football mini helmet. That's right. It's free. All you have to do is go over to the Twitter page, look at our pinned tweet, and it'll show you exactly how to get your name entered for that. And I can tell you, one of the things is subscribing to the YouTube channel. Super simple, super easy. So go on and do that. I look forward to giving that out. We're going to give it away or announce a winner on May 2nd. So that'll be the first show of May, Monday, May 2nd. So be sure to tune in then, see if you win that mini helmet. Be sure to follow the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Find it at Locked On Golden Gophers. And we're having a blast. Again, this Friday, we are having our mailbag. Typically, we do them Thursdays, but we're going to do this one on Friday due to the NFL draft. So if you have any questions whatsoever about the draft, about our guys, where they land, drop a comment down below. If you have any questions not related to football, you want to talk women's basketball, men's basketball, women's hockey, men's hockey, other Gophers sports, drop those comments below, DM on the Twitter. Let's get them going. Friday is the mailbag. Now let's jump into tonight. We're going to be talking about our Gopher prospects, which ones have left for the NFL draft, and let's talk about what they did last year. So first off, Bishop McDonald, defensive back, didn't get a whole lot of time with the Gophers. He was a depth D-back. He brought some depth to the squad, filled in rotationally here and there. Overall, he had 10 total tackles and 1 forced fumble with his time with the Gophers. Then we have Blaise Andries. We've already went hard into detail with Blaise Andries. Go check that out on last Friday's podcast. But I will say that we stressed we love his versatility and his flexibility between the multiple guard positions, as well as he can play some tackle. I think that's going to be extremely valuable at the NFL level. And I think we see him go relatively early. We'll talk about that later today. Boye Mafe, next on the list. Again, we've already discussed in depth Boye Mafe, what our thoughts are, what his relative athletic score is, what he did to contribute to the team, and where we think he'll go, all on one of our past Friday podcasts where we did draft profiles. Now, Boye Mafe, he's a stud. I mean, he is an athletic freak, explosive, and I truly think he could go in the top of the second round or the end of the first round. I'm hoping he lands at the end of the first round on one of those contending teams. It could be really fun to watch him develop there. But we'll talk about that again in a little bit. Boye Mafe, go check out that older episode. And then next up, we have Coney Durr. Now, Coney is a cornerback for the squad. He started in 43 of his 55 games with the Gophers. So lots of experience. He totaled 143 tackles. He had 30 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, and 2 sacks in his career as a Gopher. Super productive, consistent. We put him on an island to lock down guys every so often, and he showed up. Coney Durr, I love the guy. I love his just will and love for the game, his passion for the game. He works, he grinds, he wants to be better each and every day. You love that from guys, and that is a great intangible asset to have. That being said, his relative athletic score due to testing metrics wasn't the greatest. He scored a 2.28, but again, he's a great open field tackler, and he's consistent, which can go a long way in the NFL. Next on the list is Daniel Faalele. Again, he's one of the prospects we've discussed on a past Friday prospect review episode. So go check out Daniel Faalele. He's a mammoth of a human being. His RAS score wasn't the greatest. I still think he'll get good capital because of his amazing size. And I think he's going to be a valuable right tackle in the league. Somebody is going to value what he brings to the table. Then we have Esezi Otomewo. I mean, it's tough to say, but I'm doing my best with that one. I think I've got it pretty close. But Esezi, he had 81 total tackles, 7.5 sacks, 13.5 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. He did wonderful for us on the edge. He brought the pressure. He brought the pass rush. Solid athlete. Scored a 6.65 on RAS. He has great size for his position, and he has some explosion and agility. But he had a lower speed. His combine speed for the 40, well, not combine, his pro day 40 time was a 5.01. So almost a 5 flat. Little slower for a pass rusher, but again, he brings explosion, he brings agility, and he's got great size. So I think some team is going to value that. Next up, we have Jack Gibbons. We're going to be talking about him in depth on tomorrow's show prior to the draft. So be sure to tune in for that. I'm not going to give you too many hints on that one because we're going to talk about him tomorrow. I got to leave a little bit of curiosity, a little flavor, a little spice for tomorrow's episode. So be sure to tune in, but we're going to talk about Jack Gibbons, linebacker for the Gophers. Then we got Justice Harris. He was a cornerback. Again, more of a depth defensive back for us, with a majority of his playing time being in this past season in his senior year. He had 71 total tackles, 2 pass breakups, 4 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles. So he's scrappy. You love to see it. DB is one of the hardest positions, especially at the next level and at the collegiate level. So it's harder to evaluate these guys, but I think that Justice Harris does bring something to the table. Then we got Sam Schluter. He was an offensive guard for the Gophers. He played at the Hula Bowl, which is like one of the lower senior bowls, not like lower, but like it's not the Reese's, but there are like 3 or 4 really big senior bowls invites that prospects can go to. And Sam Schluter was at the Hula Bowl. Wow, mouthful, folks. Lots of L's in that one. He was at the Hula Bowl. He was an all Big Ten honorable mention for 3 straight seasons from 2019, 2020, and 2021. Started 46 games, and he played in 10 others, so he has a vast amount of experience at the Big Ten football conference level. Power 5 school or against Power 5 programs, some of the best competition out there, tons of starting experience, was a consistent force on the O-line that was consistently one of the best run games out there. So I would not be surprised to see a run-heavy offensive team in the NFL at least give him a look in the later rounds. And he played left tackle and had our QB's backside on lock protection-wise over the years. Now, next on the list, we have about 3-4 more guys I want to touch on, and then we'll talk about where we see them falling, going, etc. So Heath is next up. He's a tight end. He was one of the best run blocking tight ends in the nation. He only had 12 receptions for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns over the career at the U of M. But most of that came actually in his senior year this past season with 101 yards, 1 touchdown, and 7 of receptions coming all of this past season. He had 21 reps on the bench press and a 32-inch vertical at his pro day. So that run blocking can't be valued enough. There are guys out there, Nick Boyle. There are other tight ends that are specifically Mercedes Lewis. You see them literally brought into systems to run blocks. So don't be surprised if Cole Keefe gets some looks. Next on the list, we have Micah Treadway, defensive end, 41 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2.5 forced fumbles, 27 total games. He's 6'4", 315 pounds, good size for his position. Not a whole lot of experience, but teams love edge rushers. So then we got Niles Pic Pinkney. He was a defensive tackle. He played 4 years at Clemson, 1 year with Minnesota, 111 total tackles, 16.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. Now, his best statistical season was with the Gophers. He has rock-solid size at 6'1", 300, great interior presence, and great experience at both the ACC and Big Ten levels. And then our final player we're going to discuss is Philip Howard. He was a defensive back, played 5 years. Most production came in his final 2 years. He had 32 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble, again at the defensive back position. Now let's talk about where we think these guys are going to land. If they'll get drafted, around where we think they'll get drafted, or what is their future outlook. That's coming up next. But let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar. See, Built Bar, you can compare it to a candy bar with its taste. But if you want to look at the macros, it's high in protein, low in calories, high in fiber, low in carbs. So it's much better for you than a candy bar. In fact, a candy bar usually has between 240 to 300 calories on top of 30 grams of sugar and dozens of net carbs. But a Built Bar only has 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. The great, perfect after workout snack. And they have delicious flavors. In fact, they are so delicious, and all the new flavors that they come out with all the time, if they think a flavor might be good, then they'll make it. And it will end up being delicious and good for you. One that I recently tried that I was a fan of. It didn't pass the mint brownie for me, as you all know. That one is my go-to. But the white chocolate cookies and cream, rock solid. Good taste. Not chalky like most protein bars are. I really liked it, and I think you would too. So at Built Bar, I said they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, and then they make it good for you. I don't know how they do it, but they do. So go over to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's LOCKED15 for 15% off your order at built.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Golden Gophers your first listen. We appreciate it. And with the draft coming up, we're going to be cheering on our guys that we just discussed. And now we're about to move on further into where we think they'll go, who will get drafted out of the bunch. So be sure to tune into the draft for our guys. And if you're really looking for that player by player, team by team, pick by pick analysis, then be sure to check out, for the first time ever, Locked On is doing hosting a live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft from our studios in Dallas. Again, pick by pick analysis from our local team of experts and draft gurus. They're going to be doing it all 3 days, so you can tune in live, and our team is going to give you the guide on through every pick of the NFL Draft. You can tune in real time at the Locked On NFL on YouTube or on the Odyssey app. Starts this Thursday, April 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune into that. But let's talk about our guys and where we think who will get drafted, who might not, and where could they possibly go. Now, who is a lock for our guys? I would say Boye Mafe is a certainty to be drafted. It's all about, is it the first round or the second round? I don't think he falls past that. I think he will be a mid to early second round guy, possibly a late first for a team that sees the athleticism, the athletic freak, and the explosion that he brings. His best football is in front of him, which you can't say that all the time about guys coming out of college. He's got a lot to continue to develop and hone in on and could be great at the next level. So he's a lock, early pick. Another lock I would say would be Daniel Faalele, looking like he'll probably be a day 2 pick, likely second round, maybe late second round. If he falls, it would be to the third. I think he'll likely be a second round guy. Someone is going to take a chance on that size, 384 pounds, mammoth of a human. That's what I keep telling you guys. He's a mammoth. If I saw him on the field, looking him in the eyes, whether I'm in a 5 tech or whether I got my hand in the dirt, and I'm looking up at him, that's who I got to get past to get the quarterback. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'll sit this one out, coach. But he's a mammoth of a human being. He's going to go day 2, I think likely second round. Then you got guys like Blaise Andries, who I believe is also going to be a day 2 pick. I honestly think his career path in the NFL could be stronger than Daniel Faalele's. Has a great relative athletic score, as we talked about on a previous episode last Friday, with a 9.8 score on the relative athletic score. But the thing that's really key for me is that he is a movable offensive lineman. You can put him at either guard position. You can put him at a tackle position if needed. He reminds me of a I won't even say slightly less athletic. He reminds me of Elton Jenkins and what he does for the Packers. So if he can bring that level of versatility as a day 2 pick on round 2, round 3, which I think it's actually probably more round 3. If he really slips, it could be round 4, but I think he's a round 3 guy. And I think whatever team lands with him might get a steal. So Blaise Andries, lock him in. He's going to get picked. It's just a matter of where. I hope it's day 2 because he earned it. Then we got Jack Gibbons. Jack Gibbons, I believe, is going to get drafted. I'm locking him in as who is a lock to be drafted. I think he'll probably be he'll be a day 3 guy, possibly 5th round, 6th round. But linebackers from Minnesota have found production at the NFL. I mean, Coughlin has latched on with a couple of teams, saw production at the NFL. Cashman saw production at the NFL. I think he actually just signed with the Texans, but previously was with the Jets. Saw time, injuries hampered him a little bit, but saw production. Devondre Campbell, enough said, all pro, stud. Kamal Martin has seen time. I mean, our linebacker core is consistently seeing production, and they're all relatively later picks. So Jack Gibbons is going to get an opportunity somewhere. It's established that pipeline of consistent linebackers. And I mean, future guys, Mariano Sori-Marin, going to get drafted one day. Like our pipeline for linebackers, they might be late draft picks, but they're productive and people keep looking at us for them. So lock him in. Esezi Otomewo, he had visits with the Titans, the Colts, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Raiders. So many visits. Like these are the top 30 visits where you get to bring in at least 30 guys to come in, take a look at them and whatnot. Each team. And he's had what? I just said the Titans, Colts, Bears, Vikings, Raiders. That's 5 teams right there. 5 teams are interested enough to bring him through and see how they feel about him. I think he'll be a late pick. I think he'll be probably 6th round, maybe 5th, creep up in the late 5th. But I think he's going to get drafted, so he's a lock for me. And then surprisingly, right now I have Heath as a lock. Now, I know a lot of people might call me crazy for having Heath as a lock for a draft pick, but I think he'll be a late pick somewhere as one of the best run-blocking tight ends in the country. That's a valued trait by NFL coaches much less than it is by fans. Fans will look at his production and receiving and be like, what? Why did we draft this guy? What the heck? You have to understand football and how much a tight end can impact the run block game, especially if they're like having an additional blocker, an additional lineman out there for you, but you can't treat them necessarily like one because they can get off the line and catch the ball. I mean, he's a valued piece. I think somebody's going to take a shot on him late because of that asset that he brings. So for our locks, I have Boye Mafe, Daniel Faalele, Blaise Andries, Jack Gibbons, all for sure locks. Those four, lock them in easy. I think Esezi, Otomewu, and Keith both get drafted. So I have 6 Gophers getting drafted in the NFL draft. We'll review on Friday. Actually, Friday it won't be done. So we'll review on Monday, and we'll see if my prediction's correct. Now, guys who have a shot, but it might be tough, slim pickings. Coney Durr, again, cornerback is massively difficult position. He had a rock-solid production. He held his own, and teams will value that. And I think he could potentially be a day 3 pick. He could sneak in there depending on what teams are valuing and what they're looking at when they're looking at the tape. Niles Pinkney, I think he has shown and has the experience and the production at multiple high-level competition in the ACC and the Big Ten. I think a team could look at that. They could value what he does on the field. So I think he has a shot for sure. And then Sam Schluter is my other guy in this smaller group of guys who I think have a shot to get drafted. Again, he was very consistent on the O-line, played left tackle for the Gophers, had great backside protection. I mean, consistent. And like for a run-heavy team especially, I think he brings some value. I think it's tougher at the left tackle position to draft solely towards the run game because the left tackle is very important in protecting your quarterback. But I think he could have a shot. So those are my 3 guys in the who has a shot group. That's Coney Durr, Niles Pinkney, and Sam Schluter. So if everything went perfect, in my opinion, as far as like what I can see happening, we could have up to 9 Gophers get drafted. Then lastly, we have the who might be a camp invite or a UDFA. I think that's Bishop McDonald, Philip Howard, and Justice Harris, all for the fact of there are more depth pieces at the D-back. They didn't get enough time to really show off what they could do as at that competitive level, but maybe on their tape from what they have shown that they could get a camp invite. I don't see them getting drafted this year though. And then finally, Micah Dutreadway, again, similar reasoning, different position, defensive end, great size, but I think he's more of a camp invite guy. I'm not sure I could see him getting drafted. Just not enough on tape, not enough production, not enough experience. So for more details on Boye Mafe, Daniel Faalele, and Blaise Andries, check out our last 3 Friday podcasts episodes. Tomorrow, again, we're going to be talking about Jack Gibbons. So tune in for that. It's going to be a good one. Like I said, Gophers linebackers, man. Production. Late picks, production. All right, we're going to close the show with our fun game. We've done it past 2 Wednesdays now called Guess That Gopher. That's coming up next. All right, so let's talk about car issues. That's literally the worst thing, right? It's when you see that engine light go on, you see the battery light, you see, a city bus just drove by, took off your mirror. Car issues are the worst. We all hate dealing with them. And when you go into the auto shop, you know you're coming out with a massive bill, money you don't want to spend, money you don't want to drop. And it's just like, man, why? And you know they always have their one manufacturer that they get the parts from, and it's always the most expensive one. Why do that? Why go through that? Why go through the intimidating questioning of those people? And while they are behind the counter and telling you, you know what, these are the only parts we have, why not choose the brand of your choice and that's cheaper? You can do that with your phone in your pocket or your computer at home with rockauto.com. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? I mean, Rock Auto's prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website to find the solution for your auto parts needs. So go over to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Again, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you to Rock Auto. They have amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here with the Guess That Gopher game. For those of you that haven't listened yet, if you're from the Minnesota area, you've probably heard of the Power Trip morning show on K-Fan Radio. They do a game called the Initials Game where they give clues based on a set of initials and you guess people, phrases, things that start with those initials. Now, we've taken our own spin on that game, and this is the Guess That Gopher game. You're going to have a Gopher athlete that you are trying to guess. This athlete is going to be a Minnesota Gopher at one point in time in their collegiate career. I'm going to give you 6 clues, and based on those clues, you are trying to guess that Gopher. You can drop your guesses down below. You can brag down below in the comments about how quick you got it, or you can be like, dang, this one stumped me. How'd you figure it out? Start the community, start the chats down below. Let's get to it. Guess that Gopher, starting with clue number 1. This Gopher started on their varsity basketball team in the 8th grade. Clue number 2. This Gopher once made ESPN's top 5 players to watch list. Clue number 3. This Gopher was named the Freshman All-American First Team in Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Clue number 4. This Gopher averaged over 20 points a game in 3 separate seasons with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Clue number 5. This Gopher is the program's all-time leading scorer and once scored 60 points in a game. Clue number 6. This Gopher was drafted 4th overall in the WNBA draft. Now I'm going to give you 5 seconds to get your final answers in. So this Gopher, did you get it right? It was none other than Rachel Bonham. Golden Gophers, now plays for the Minnesota Lynx, was drafted by the Connecticut Sun, and she's still in the Lynx. She's officially a point guard. She'd kind of been a combo guard playing 1 and 2 with the Lynx. Officially, solely a point guard. We look forward to her success here in Minnesota once again. She had a phenomenal Gophers career. She had finished, I believe, with 6th in scoring all time for NCAA women. And she's been passed a couple times since then. So I believe she's 8th now all time. Great athlete, Gopher athlete. Thank you for a great career here. Did you get it right? You'll have to let me know down below. I hope you're liking this game. Let me know down below if you're liking this. If you're not, let us know so we can think of something else. But I'm doing this for you. So that's going to be it for the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast. I'm your host, Kane Rob. Please subscribe to the YouTube below. Please check out the Twitter page and find out how you can win that mini Gopher helmet for free. It's a contest. Thank you for tuning in. Again, May we have tons of interviews coming up with other analysts from the Gophers, players on the teams, and a prospect who's joining the Gophers in the 2023 season. I mean, what more can you say? Let's tune in, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your boss, tell whoever. You see a Gopher fan in the grocery store with a hat, tell them about the show. Thank you again for listening. This is Kane Rob. Have a great rest of the night. I'll see you tomorrow.